Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, a safe place for leading with your heart. Hey, thanks for being here. You, Me, Empathy is the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective, a collaborative mental health community designed to empower each of us to grow our capacity for empathy, vulnerability, and emotional wayfinding. Just a friendly reminder that this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. No one is just a silly boy with a feely heart. You can support the show by leaving a review in Apple Podcasts, following us on social media at YouMe Empathy and Feely Human, and joining the Feely Human Collective community at feelyhuman.co. And now your host, Known Wells.
Hello, Feely Humans. Welcome to another episode of You, Me, Empathy. My name is Known Wells. I am the host and creator of You, Me, Empathy, as well as the founder of the Feely Human Collective at feelyhuman.co. I'm here today on episode 170 talking about critical thinking and so much more with queer intuitive tarot teacher and founder of Tarot for the Wild Soul, Lindsay Mack. Lindsay was a previous guest on this podcast way back in episode 35 in August of 2018. Gosh, that seems like a bajillion years ago. But Lindsay is a friend. She is a light. She is a gift to humanity. And I so enjoy talking with her. We talk about leaning into the stretch and speed of time, why the uncomfortable and the richness occupy the same space. We talk about Lindsay's experience this past year with EMDR, why every tarot card is an invitation to anti-racism work, and critical thinking through the lens of maybe religious persecution, colonialism, witch burnings, and so many other things. So this is a wonderful episode. I really enjoy talking with Lindsay. She's wonderful. Check out their new website. It's tarotforthewildsoul.com. I believe that is. And tarotforthewildsoul.com. And Lindsay is on Instagram at Wild Soul Healing. Before we get to the episode, though, I just wanted to recommend a podcast episode. The podcast is called Add to Cart by Suchin and Kulap. And they usually talk about shopping and cultural things. And their latest episode is profound. And they talk about the murder of the individuals at the Atlanta area massage parlors. Their names, I don't know how to pronounce, but I'm going to try here, are Daju Feng, Jia Oji Tan, Hyun Jiang Park, Julie Park, Delana Ashley, Jan Gonzalez, Paul Andre Michaels, and 2 unnamed victims. It's atrocious what happened this past week. It is vile. It is hateful. It is so deeply depressing. And Suchin and Kulap talk about it as Asian American women and their perspective. It's beautiful. It'll make you cry. It'll make you feel emotional, but you need to feel it. You need to listen. You need to feel and listen. And I highly recommend that episode. I'll link it in the show notes for this show. And just a reminder to all of us, we need to listen. And we need to learn, and we need to understand that these systems of oppression are within us, even if we're not aware of it. We need to call out racist jokes. Suchin actually, on Instagram, she's at Suchin Pak, SUCHINPAK. She shared an experience she had way back when she worked at MTV, and it was just awful and profound, but such an example of what persists and exists for women, for Asian American women, for minorities, for people of color. It just persists, and it's vile, and we need to call it out. We need to be bold in our fight against this vileness, because people will continue to die And we don't want that, right? We're feely humans. To be feely human is to be empathetic and to be compassionate and to grow and to unlearn, right? And to listen to our heart. To be bold and compassionate, call this stuff out, and listen to that Add to Cart episode. It's wonderful. Definitely follow I Am Kulap and Suchin Pak on Instagram. They're at I Am Kulap and Suchin Pak on Instagram. Listen to their show, subscribe to their show. And actually, one other thing, I'm just going to bring it up because I just forgot. I signed up for, and I think they're this week, I signed up for anti-harassment. I think that is. Hold on. I'm going to bring it up here. Okay, so the Chicago area Advancing Justice organization is doing a bystander intervention to stop anti-Asian American and xenophobic harassment training. It's free. And if you go to their website, advancingjustice-chicago.org, advancingjustice-chicago.org, you can find some times to sign up. It's free. I highly recommend it. I signed up for the April 8th training. And so check that out. I'll include that link in the show notes as well. Okay. That's all I'll say about that. Please rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast. Ratings truly do help. Reviews help even more. If you've been listening for a while, or even if you're a new listener, hello, please rate and review. It does truly help out the show. And if you want to support me on an ongoing basis financially, you can do so at patreon.com/feelyhuman. You'll get bonus episodes every month. In a few days, actually, on Wednesday, for the $10 and up Patreons, we're doing a bonus Zoom. We do Zooms every month for the $10 and up. We're talking about boundaries, which is something that is hard but essential. As you know, we're talking about boundaries on March 24th. So check that out at patreon.com/feelyhuman. The last thing I wanted to mention is on April 14th, I am leading a new workshop for Feely Human. It's called Illustrating Empathy. It's an empathy and art workshop. We're going to talk about empathy for self, and there'll be a fun art activity, and there'll be vulnerability and maybe some crying, and it'll be beautiful and lovely. And we have about 10 spots left. So if you want to sign up for that, it's only $5. If you want to sign up for that, go to illustratingempathy.com, or you go to the website, feelyhuman.com, navigate over to the workshops tab in the navigation and click on Illustrating Empathy. Again, that's April 14th at 2 p.m., 10 spots left. Hope to see you there. Okay. I think that's it. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy this wonderful episode with the just wonderful, beautiful Feely Human that is Lindsay Mack. We talk about critical thinking and so much more. I hope you enjoy. Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective. On this show, we explore the struggles, the triumphs, the brights and the darks we face as humans trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of You, Me, Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our mental health, our neuroses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic, and to share that dialogue with others to inspire emotional and cognitive collaboration and insight so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being feely humans. You Me Empathy is a safe, friendly space designed to inspire the beauty in each of us. Today, I'm feeling deeply terrific to be reconnecting with queer intuitive tarot teacher, founder of Tarot for the Wild Soul, creator of Soul Tarot, and hailed by the wayward and me as, quote, one of the most important new voices in the world of modern spirituality and wellness. It's Lindsay Mack. Hello, Lindsay.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm tickled, delighted, so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. Weird tangent. Have you ever seen the documentary Tickled?
Oh my God. We just watched that a couple of weeks ago.
Really?
Yes. Okay, wait. The one that basically explores like the underbelly of this man who has this like monopoly, right, on tickling and has all these different identities. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Wild. I had heard about that story on this podcast called The Dollop. I don't know if you listened to The Dollop, but it's an American history podcast where these two comedians, I like only listen to comedy podcasts. It's very interesting. Very, very few kind of like, it's a mental health need. You know what I mean? They read these stories that are rooted in American history, sometimes horrifying, sometimes hilarious, sometimes curious. And this man was one of those people. And my husband and I were like, well, we have to watch this like tonight. Anyway, that being said, please go ahead.
Yes, it's tremendous. It's tremendous. And I when you said Tickled, I was like, oh my gosh, that documentary. Listeners, if you haven't seen Tickled, it's surprising, and I think it's on HBO. It's worth checking out.
I mean, talk about layers of shame.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, it does start off as this, kind of curiosity, and then it
pivots.
It pivots into some real darkness for sure. Yeah. Well, I'm so happy to have you here, friend. It's been, the listeners should know that Lindsay was on You Me Empathy back in August of 2018, episode 35. And I'm in the 160s at this point.
I was just going to say, that's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And your podcast has continued and is flourishing, I see. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
God, another lifetime ago.
I know, right? Oh, gosh.
Another lifetime. Anyway, keep going.
So much to catch up on.
I know.
So let's start with an emotional check-in, as we always do. How are you feeling, friend?
I'm feeling okay. Yeah, I'm feeling okay. I'm often unable to give a straightforward answer to that question these days because I am consistently rolling through various feeling states that are rooted or connected to just all different kinds of buttons are being pushed in this pandemic. It's a very powerful and intense time. And there's a lot of stuff historically in culture that we're moving through right now. And I feel like as an empath and a feely person and an intuitive, I'm moving through, in the ocean, sometimes when the waves both go out and in at the same time, that's very much how I feel now. There's a sense of my spacious awareness holding the absolute okayness of where I'm at that is inclusive of those feelings. But between like some trauma pieces, some OCD pieces, some life pieces, some hormonal pieces, it's like an amazing swirl right now that is both at times challenging and very actually quite invigorating, because it makes me it reminds me of my aliveness. It's a privilege to hold space for myself in that way, but not a simple time. So I'm okay, holding a lot, if that makes sense. How are you today?
I mean, I think that makes wonderful sense, and it's something that I'm feeling for sure. Like I'm feeling a lot of big feelings, a lot of complicated feelings, a lot of, a push toward needing to feel more connected to the gray in the world, where a world that feels often like it's oppressing a binary, oppressing a good versus bad, oppressing this like divisive way of living, and feeling unanchored, which maybe works in your water ocean metaphor, feeling unanchored, and that is scary, that is heavy. But to your point, I think it's also like, hey, I'm out there, I may be feeling some new things. Those things may be telling me some new things, guiding me in different directions or not, and that feels exciting. So it's a little scary and a little exciting.
Yeah, you put it really perfectly, and I'm in very much the same place. I feel like, we all make meaning in our own way of life and things, and sometimes we don't make any meaning of it at all. And within that, I feel like there's some potency and some meaning making even there too, to get too meta about it. But I just entered, we all go through, if folks track this way their years, we all go through a personal tarot card with each year, depending on our birthday. And mine is Wheel of Fortune this year. And I find that going through and tracking, because I move very slowly with my own tarot education. There's a lot of like waiting and watching and the card telling me what it is. That's always been my way. Even when I was a very young person working with the tarot, I'm not sure where I got that, because I don't tend to move that way with too many other things. But there has been this very interesting relationship that I've been feeling with time, and the feeling like it's very unfamiliar to me right now. Like it feels very weird right now. Like there are things that are changing, that are very big, and yet they're not happening. And I think I can feel that in a bigger way too, even just like, on the day that we're recording this, it's like there's just 3 more days and there'll be a new administration in the White House. And like, I feel like even that is like, if you move houses, like there's something about like time really speeding up, it feels like, and time both being very slow, I'm learning a new relationship with time right now in a way that I don't quite have language for, that I think is both very much in my mind as I think about Wheel of Fortune, which is very much a card about time. But also like everybody is going through that, because these are unprecedented times, and we're really leaning into the stretch of time in a way that we haven't before. And also like the speed of it. So it's like exactly as you say, like the unmoored feeling, the liminality of this time is very interesting. Extremely uncomfortable. I've never been more uncomfortable. Yeah, it's very uncomfortable right now.
Yeah,
but a lot of richness within it for sure.
I think that's beautifully said. I wonder if like the time piece of it has to do with just the fact that like just this past year alone, let alone the past 4 years, with He Who Must Not Be Named.
I know, for real.
so much bigness, like so many like stark, severe, big, earth shattering things have happened just in this last year alone, right?
Yeah.
And when we like conceive of time as humans, I think like, okay, like we understand that like those things happen over a lifetime, but it seems like we've packed in quite a lot in a year. And so like time has become this like, all right, it does feel like it's gone so fast, but so slowly because like, maybe we want to get through some of these things, these traumas, these things that are bringing up grief, these things that are bringing up loss, these things that are bringing up discomfort in privilege, discomfort in sitting with my feelings for the first time at home alone, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard.
I mean, I think that's just the word. It's so hard, and it's hard for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's hard in like, I am so fucking lucky, and I am tethered to that. I am tethered to my blessings, to my privilege. And it also cracks me open because it's so hard for me right now that I can't imagine what it must be like for folks who are dealing with more marginalization, are dealing with more struggle right now, are dealing with more just difficulties and challenges on a systemic level as well as an individualized level. I think about the folks who are in recovery and what this landscape looks like without in-person meetings. And like, there's so much that, we can't even wrap our minds around the degree of personal struggle that everybody is going through right now. And if struggle, doesn't resonate with everyone, I think just the hardness of this time, it's just so hard. It really is.
What are some things that have helped you personally in terms of, finding your way in this hard time, finding some solace or some peace or some comfort in this hard time?
I have a couple. I'm curious to hear about yours. I am going to multiple hours of therapy a week and have been since the pandemic. I go to over 5 hours of therapy a week.
Dang, girl.
Yeah. And like I will say that I started with a therapist when I was back in New York. She has, I don't even know if I'd be here without her, like for real, but saved my life, changed my life. Absolutely remarkable, exceptional therapist. And I moved from New York City to Portland about a month before lockdown. And she and I were supposed to stop working together because she didn't do virtual, but then she just started to do virtual with everyone, and we've continued. So we were already doing 2 double sessions a week when I was in New York because we were doing so much EMDR and so much. She also did body work. And I found a rhythm in that in New York that worked very well for me. Like this idea of being able to go so deep in these kind of 2 segments. And 2020 was unique for me in that I worked constantly. I was called to work. I felt called to create. There was a lot of inspiration and also a lot of devastation within that. It was like, in some ways, I felt like some parts of me were born for this time, that I was like, oh, like I had not really understood why some of my offerings, I felt like a lot of the things that I'd made over the last few years sort of aligned with the needs of the time, like how to be with what is.
Yeah.
And in order to serve that much, I needed to get more care for myself. And so we've since downscaled it a little bit to like less than 5 hours a week. But it just so happened that it was bringing up so much trauma for me that those regular visits were a really important part. And I really did whatever I had to do to pay for it because it was really important to me. I would not have made it out of this time with like it triggered a lot of stuff. So for everybody, and I was very lucky that I got to do that. So I think for me, again, just naming those deep, extraordinary privileges and blessings to be able to do that and to have a therapist who works in that kind of deep way. Therapy is the number one. And I would say the number two, I live kind of in a foresty area. And I think just even looking out of the window, not to mention walking around the house, is unbelievably valuable to me. That's been immeasurable. And then the third one is just straight up TV. Like my husband and I think television, movies are medicine. I always have. And I've never been one of those folks who doesn't equate the spiritual with that kind of creative expression. Like I love TV, I love movies. And so I feel like I can mark time in the pandemic with what shows we got into, what movies we explored, what movies we revisited. We're deep into Twin Peaks right now.
Okay.
And it's everything. Like it's lovely to be able to explore a different world like that, to get to explore art like that. And so I would say therapy, nature, and TV have really been like, not to mention, I mean, my practices are always an incredibly deep rooted part of my life. And so, of course, kind of the overarching piece is tarot and spirit and crying, just like time to be with my feelings. In my old apartment, I never had like a space of my own. I don't think most people have spaces of their own in their apartments. And I have a space of my own where I live here. And that's been huge too. Nice. So yeah.
Amazing.
How about you?
Hold on.
Okay,
I'm curious,
sure.
How has EMDR therapy been for you? Because I started EMDR therapy in 2020 and went through maybe half a dozen sessions, and it was illuminating. It was also very difficult. It was exhausting, and I wonder how it was for you.
I'm still receiving it. I do EMDR about once a week because we're working on a very, very tough target right now. So we've been doing it for a couple months, like working on this target, taking a break, coming back. Now we're kind of in the installation of new belief zone of it. We're kind of like in zone 2. What can I say about, I mean, I agree with you on everything that you brought up about EMDR. I'm still learning my way into it. I actually have a lot to say about it. So yeah, because you asked, I'll give you the real answer. I feel like EMDR is for sure one of the most important things that I've ever done. And I have noticed a profound difference from doing it. Like profound. And my therapist said that this does happen with some people. They tend to, the closest thing that I can describe is like a trip. Like when I do it, it feels like I am on psychedelics. It's a very, very powerful experience and happens to come through that way for me. I know for some people it is not that way. And I was not expecting it to be that way, but there's like a lot of symbolism and color and very much like I wonder what your experience was, but like, I feel like when I set out to do EMDR, like I'm guided to things that I don't understand why they're coming up. And then the more I follow, the more I'm like, whoa, like, so it's very challenging to talk about because it does feel so visceral that, I've never had an experience like it. It's really been absolutely life-changing and profound. And when I do EMDR, regardless of the target we're working on, it brings up tremendous rawness in me around my mother wound. I think going there like brings up like all of the deepest hurts like that I think I had when I was pre-verbal, even like, I didn't, I mean, when you're an abused kid, it's one of those things where you're just trying to survive. And then you get to this point where you're like, okay, I have some foundation under me. And then I've found that with that foundation there and with this therapeutic relationship, there's now permission and there's been an opening to actually feel the pain of not being loved or held, because I was not at all. I was never held. I was rarely hugged. I was kind of a lost child in the midst of my parent who really couldn't take care of me and the other caretakers in my life who kind of had to take me on, but didn't really have any room to give me much in the way of affection. In fact, there was a lot of stuff I heard directly about being a burden to them. So there's a lot of energy around like not being chosen and a lot of transference that sometimes comes up with my therapist. So I also find that it is incredibly disruptive to my life. So it's like this incredible practice, but like, I haven't yet learned, like we've now taken a break from it for about 3 weeks. And we'll probably start up again this week. So I have to go off and on with it sometimes because there's just like, it will come up and I'll work through what's coming up. But then it's like, I have to like then do my job. Yeah. And what it brings up is so big that I can't do both sometimes. So I'm learning, but it's spectacular and wild. I've never gone through anything like it. I'm doing it with a very safe person. So I think that allows it to go a little.
It's crucial. Yeah.
It's crucial. Yeah. We had to work together for over a year before we even started. So, yeah, it's great. But I'm also like, I get it. It's like unbelievably intense. And again, stuff that's not even related to like the target will get triggered by doing it. And I haven't yet learned how to navigate that. So very often I feel like I'm just holding the screaming infant part of myself, just being like, I don't know what to do. Like, I literally don't know what to do other than just be here, which is enough. But also like, there's a calling out for something that I don't know how to give to myself. So again, that's a lot of information.
I mean, I'm here for it and I love it. And I'm so grateful that you've found EMDR therapy and it has been so impactful for you because I've only done it a brief amount and I'd like to get back to it, but it is like, for me, it has been this thing where it's allowed me to do some ruminating and noodling on, to your point, just the little sensitive, feely kid I was that felt very alone in a big family, that felt very alone in a violent family, right? That felt like he needed to hide. And so, the process has triggered in me this like deep yearning to want to give that little boy so much love. And I haven't figured out exactly, and maybe this is what you're talking about a little bit, haven't figured out exactly what that love looks like yet exactly.
Same.
Right?
Yes.
But the feeling of that yearning is very powerful and I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It triggers me a lot. I'm learning how to be with it because I'm like a fixer and a doer. It's one of the best parts about me and also one of the biggest challenges because like I'm always having to remind myself like just showing up is enough. Like you don't need to do anything with this. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to understand it. You just validating it, honoring it. You don't have to like there's like there if like in other words like a baby is crying out, like the force of it and the intensity of it is almost like a baby crying out to be fed by its mother. And there's a sense in me that's like, well, I have to feed like this part of me. And it's like really what is chest feeding, breastfeeding, it's like looking your baby in the eye. It's being there. Any kind of feeding, whether you're breastfeeding or chest, I shouldn't have said that, bottle feeding your child, period.
Mm-hmm.
All forms of feeding a child are utterly and wholly valid, and should be celebrated. Bottle feeding, I'm all about it. I think for me, where I went to is that, like, I have some stuff around that personally, so I wasn't trying to speak for everybody. But I do think that, like, what is that? Anytime I've fed a child with a bottle, it's been like, you're ideally, you're looking at them, you're making eye contact, you're there, you're there, and you don't need to. I feel like I'm always trying to, like, come up with what's the right bottle for this, and there's no bottle, it's just me. But then it triggers off, like, me. Well, why would I be enough? I've never been enough for anybody, So it's really intense. All the feelings, all the things. And I love that you are able to hook into this place of, like, I can just be there. I want to be there. I'm still working on that.
Yeah, I think it's so, I think it's very resonant in just like the human relationship experience in terms of, like, so often, like, we want to fix, like you said, or we want to insert, or we want to, like, we have this thing we need to say, or we have preconceptions or misconceptions, or we go into situations with, plans of attack, even if we're not, like, sort of front of our brain ruminating on those plans of attack, we still like go into situations like that, or conversations or whatever, with all this, like, pre-knowledge, right? And it gets in the way. It gets in the way, does. Right?
Yeah, it totally does. 100%.
Yeah. So EMDR has been great, and you're going to get back to it. That's wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that. In regards to movies and TV, what have you been enjoying this past year?
Well, okay. I feel like there's been some like revisiting. So X-Files was my favorite show my whole life, from like 13 on, and we've revisited X-Files pretty extensively. We've dropped into, like, Seinfeld and Curb, and we've revisited, like, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like those pieces. Gosh, what have we watched? We got super into, my husband and I have very eclectic taste. We got into a lot of samurai movies, and we really enjoyed this movie called Lady Snowblood that I can't necessarily recommend because it's quite exploitative and it's pretty violent, and it influenced Kill Bill. So it's
I've seen it.
Oh, do you enjoy Lady Snowblood?
I did. It's Korean, right?
I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe. Definitely. I thought it was Japanese, but in that vein, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, we loved that. We watched the whole Lone Wolf and Cub film series. We were obsessed with that. We had never seen that. And, like, just those pieces, like What We Do in the Shadows was a deep refuge in the beginning of quarantine when that second season came out. Pen 15. That second season was really crucial. I mean, again, like, these are, and like right now, again, Twin Peaks has just been amazing. That was this is my first time watching it. So, yeah, those are just a couple things. I'm definitely forgetting a couple of kind of larger spectrums of media that we've consumed, but those are some that I can remember.
I love it. My partner Jessica and I are huge TV and movie consumers. Like, we are, one of our favorite things to do prior to, a global pandemic was go to the movie theaters, right? And watch movies. And that has been a loss, obviously, but it's still, like, it's such a joy. Like, I think it can be this escape, but to your point earlier, stories are chances for empathy, right? Like they're empathy machines. And like, that's the way I always think about it. And, you connect, you relate, you find meaning in the creativity of the thing and how they make it and all of it. There's so much there to like, latch onto as a human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just had that experience the other day. Have you seen any of Twin Peaks or the movie or anything?
I've only seen a handful of episodes of like the first season, and it's something it's so weird because I back in my like before I met Jessica days, I was heavily drinking and writing a lot and not sleeping very well. And I would listen to that Angelo Badalamenti Twin Peaks score like nonstop because it's so good.
So good.
Even though like I've only seen a handful of episodes, but it is a world that I enjoy and I like what's his face, the creator?
David Lynch.
David Lynch, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. And I love that tidbit. That soundtrack is great. But I mentioned this and spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't consumed Twin Peaks. I don't know. It's been out for 1,000 years, so I feel like whatever. But we just watched the movie Fire Walk with Me. It was insane. But essentially focuses on this main character, Laura Palmer, that the whole series really revolves around. I don't know if you know this, again, it's a spoiler, but she is a victim of abuse at the hands of her father. And the movie is like her last week on Earth. And I had heard from people that it's a very impactful movie if you've been a survivor of abuse by a parent, because it captures something about the horror and the terror and the hypervigilance that you experience, and the for some, the juxtaposition between like too adult and still really like a child, and that kind of range. And I was profoundly impacted by that actress's performance, because I had like forgotten about those things in myself at 16, 17, 18 years old, that that wide-eyed, constant terror, like just constant knowing that I was in the house with a dangerous person, and seeing how and that parent being extremely erratic, and it didn't for me personally, it didn't have a negative effect with me watching it. It was actually very cathartic to see it, because it reminded me to salute that part of myself and to be like, whoa, like, I can't believe, like, I remember I used to live in a vein that was quite similar to this, and I had forgotten it. Wow. So I feel like that's always happening to me when I watch movies and TV. Like, there's always something I'm gleaning from it, just as you said, of like, you're getting your own experience reflected back to you, or you're not, or you're being illuminated in some way that you've never even thought of before. It makes you think about, why did I enjoy this? Why did I not enjoy it? So, yeah, really beautiful. Yeah.
We watched a movie recently called The Half of It. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's on Netflix, and it's a really sweet, I guess, like romantic comedy about this young high school girl who, this football player like hires her to like write a love letter to this girl that he likes, and then it becomes
like a Cyrano situation.
Yeah, exactly. It's a modern day Cyrano situation, but it's like, it's really sweet, and I don't know. It's the movie that came to mind when I was thinking about movies I've watched recently. I highly recommend it.
Well, when you were, for some reason, right before you said that, it was a split second, I had forgotten that, like, that, first of all, sounds amazing. And second of all, that we have also dropped into stuff that's felt really good and beautiful to watch. Like, we like one random thing that's coming to mind is that on Netflix, there was a Babysitters Club series that was just delightful. Like it was so lovely and sweet and just medicine. And we also, this is slightly less, I don't know what, I won't characterize it as anything, but I'm a very big fan of like terrible Christmas movies. I love, oh yeah, it's like what I'm all about. And we watched so many of them this year, and it was medicine.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's all different forms of art and all different wonderful ways that art impacts, but that sounds lovely. The half of it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what it's called.
Yeah. The half of it. Mm-hmm. Have you seen Schitt's Creek?
Okay. Every fucking person in my life who I respect, admire, enjoy, we are alike. This morning, I was on the phone with my best friend, and he was like, I just finished Schitt's Creek. My husband and I cannot crack through it. We've tried a number of times. We've heard from everyone. I don't know if your opinion tracks with this. Season 1 is a little different. It's a little slower. That happens to us from time to time, where we will have a show and we'll just think, oh, I just cannot get into this show. I want to. I love everyone in that show. I want it. I'm all about it. I can't get there. I have not been able to touch down on it. We've tried to finish the pilot episode like 4 times. But I know that it'll happen eventually. So no, but also like we're trying because I know we'll love it.
You will. And I empathize with the feeling of the first handful of episodes being a bit slow, being a bit just disparate and a little bit all over the place. And, but it really gets its stride in really season 2. And I'm only in season 5. There's 6 seasons. It becomes the most life-affirming, beautiful, hilarious, so sweet show that I've seen in a while. And if you're looking for something that like feels very life-affirming, like
I want it.
Yes.
Yeah. I also watched The Queen's Gambit. We loved that. Did you see The Queen's Gambit?
I haven't. I've heard it's great.
Oh, it's like, it's unbelievable. Like, it's just a story that is so impactful, so powerful. It's so well acted. It's very, very potent and life affirming, I feel like, in a slightly different way. But there is a lot of like, there's a lot of like, yeah, it's great. Yeah, I can't wait to get into Schitt's Creek. I want it to happen soon.
Well, let me know when you do, because I definitely will. Eager to hear. Mm-hmm. So, Lindsay, you mentioned before, briefly mentioned, having some empathy for those during this time in recovery. Mm-hmm. Just a little life, personal anecdote. I recently, I'm like 12 days sober at this point.
Congratulations. It's incredible.
Thank you. It feels good. It feels like the right decision for me. I've pretty much been a heavy drinker since I was 13. And after reading books like The Deepest Well by Nadine Burke Harris and like exploring,
looking at it right now,
it's amazing. Exploring the ACEs and seeing how high my ACEs scores are and thinking about like the connection between my mental illness and childhood trauma and things like that. And then just waking up one morning feeling like, I don't know if this serves me. And I think the only reason I've got there is just doing the work of self-inquiry and curiosity. And I feel great. And I wonder if you be open to talking a little bit about your experience with sobriety and recovery, et cetera.
Yeah. My experience and journey with it thus far, because it is one step at a time, day by day, um, has been slightly different from those following kind of the so I have been sober since April of 2014. I have not had a drink. Yeah. I have also never attended a meeting, which doesn't mean that I have not struggled with it, but it's been a different journey for me. There are other things that are stronger addictions for me, that I'm not going to get super into because I feel like I'm still working through them.
Sure.
But I do feel like, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Alcohol was always in my home. Like I remember getting sips of alcohol, sips of beer. My dad worked in a bar. Like there was never any, there was no barrier to it. And I want to be just really conscious of what I'm saying here. This is not all Italian Americans, but my family are enormous drinkers, and there are some alcoholics in my family, a big time. And there is also this sense of like in Roman Catholicism, when I was growing up, like if you got communion, you had like real wine, like alcoholic wine. Like, you know what I mean? It's just when I was growing up in my area, like I feel like to detriment sometimes there was a sense of like, oh, there was just wine. Like if you wanted a sip, you had a sip. If you wanted to pour yourself a glass and like take it downstairs and drink the whole thing, nobody was paying attention to you. Yeah. So there was this sense of, there were so many people in the family that like no one's eyes were on you, you know? So I didn't realize until I was about 30. Yeah. Until I was 30 years old, how big of a problem it was. Cause it was a huge problem. And, I just got so sick and that I just stopped and never looked back. It has not called me back to it like other things that I've worked with, where I really seen that be present for me in eating disorders. In this is always like with food. I always want to be just like so deeply respectful of everyone because I'm not anti any food. Like I feel like I'm not of that way. But there are some foods, some things that I have legitimate addictions to, and they're really bad for me. And because of my own diagnoses and inflammatory issues, along with other issues that I have physically, like they're not really an option. But I also feel like I struggle to stay away. And that's been, I felt like I was in sort of remission, on the wagon, as we might call it, before the pandemic. And now that has just been, I am officially definitely in a spiral journey with it. So, I have a pretty addictive personality and, a fairly obsessional personality. So sometimes when I can get into something, I'll go so hard that then I can be done. Like I can go so deep into something that I'll be like, oh, I never have to do that again. But there have been some things that in my brain have the strongest addictive currents and effects. And again, I'm just like taking it one moment at a time, you know?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. One moment at a time. That's all we can really do.
Absolutely.
I'm hoping you're giving yourself some kindness in
that, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time. And a lot of gentleness too, because, I don't at this moment, like today, I don't really have enough of a platform of support under me to, like I'm still in the process of working through what triggers it, why, and I'll always be figuring that out. But yeah, I'm very much like in the midst right now of it. And it doesn't feel horrific. It's very uncomfortable, but it is like, I'm no stranger to it. If it wasn't that, it would be something else. I've always had that as a part of my life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I relate to that. I don't know if you remember this, and no worries if not, but I had a period of time from 17 to into my, basically for 10 years of eating disorders, anorexia specifically. And
I do remember that.
And, I'm also someone, I'll be turning 40 this year. And for the past, 10 years or so have been experiencing an immense amount of intestinal distress. I've got IBS and SIBO, and I've got, new food allergies. And these things are just like, God, like, you want to be at a place where you're like, okay, I'm recovered from anorexia. I don't want to have to like think about like
it's
my
never
food,
ending.
Right? It's just like,
I had it too.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
So my, lately I've been sort of exploring, in this sort of exploring what feels good for me journey. I'm like, hey, I've been exploring veganism, and my wife has said like, well, I really truly need you to see a nutritionist if you're going to go down that route, which she's right. But it's, it's complicated.
It's so complicated. It's been, first of all, utterly and fully and totally bowing to that. And I will be 37 in April. And I feel like I have really been reflecting lately, now that I'm getting into my later 30s, like, oh, these things don't go away. They change and they morph, and the illusion of, quote, I should be over this right now is like the biggest lie, the biggest gaslighting we receive and we tell ourselves, like that story in our head, because it's like, there's no fault of anyone. It's not anyone's fault, that like, I think about that all the time with things like my brain aneurysm. Like, there's been, just like all these, my husband and I have been talking about what it might be like potentially to have a child. I've always been like, absolutely not. And for some reason, and I think it's because of the EMDR I've been doing, it's made space for a desire for children that had to be buried for a really long time.
Yeah.
And we don't know yet. Like there's like many things that would have to come before even like the trying or the opening to get pregnant. But it's been very interesting how even thinking about potentially being pregnant has brought up like, oh no, like I might not be able to do X because I have this issue. I might not be able to do this and it's like, it's just a macrocosmic, it's a more specified situation of it's just a micro reflection of the macro, which is like, there is this undercurrent in myself that's like, well, these issues are my fault. And if I was different, if I was more up on it, if I wasn't X or Y or Z, it would be different. And it's like, well, it's because of who I am that I'm exploring these issues in this lifetime, for better or worse. And sometimes it blows and sometimes I have more perspective on it, but it's not my quote fault. There's many. So I feel like this year, especially, there's been more invitations into guilt, shame, and more capacity for compassion and acceptance than there has ever been, because I've been more confronted with my stuff this year than I have been in a long time. So,
yeah, absolutely. I relate to that. So, I think about like lately, I've been thinking about like, I want to build a new workshop around what empathy looks like in a world that does seem so divided. And like, trying to like answer the questions of like, what are the limits of empathy, and how do we continue moving forward in our big passions and big ideas and big kindnesses and big feelings, while at the same time, not reconciling, but confronting, facts about systemic racism and hatred and these things that still persist very deeply in our systems. And so that's the space I've been at mentally lately. And I wonder, for you working in tarot and teaching in tarot, like how do those things come into your mind when you think about tarot, when you teach tarot? Are they a part of that language? Are they a part of that tapestry of just, getting people into the world of tarot?
That was a beautiful question. And I just want to make sure I'm clear about what you're asking. So you're asking, how do we hold a space of empathy for humanity while still confronting the realities of these kind of systemic marginalization, of the harm that these, like, how do we keep the door open and yet be really firm about where we're coming from?
Precisely. Yeah, that's precisely it. And just,
okay.
In terms of your language, which is tarot, or one of them.
Well, I'm certainly, I imagine, not the first person to say this or explore this, but there is every card in the tarot is an invitation into anti-racism. Like every card. And I am positive that we will see, if it doesn't exist already, full classes, full workshops, books written about how every one of these cards can be utilized in the total mind, body, soul confrontation for every one of us about where white supremacy lives within us, where we are complicit in these systems. Tarot is a mirror, and it will take up. It's also an enormous aid and tool in confronting where capitalism lives inside of us, where we tend to push rather than break. Capitalist structure is baked into some of the texts that people go to that are the most classical texts, like Pentacles is money for many people. And I, at the risk of being insulting to anyone, it's just simply not true. It's just simply not true. Because if everybody who got a Pentacles card that purportedly had to do with being rich, being poor, even statements like that are ridiculous. I feel like we would have known about it by now, right? So there's these subtle lacks of inclusion, sometimes big, very overt lacks of inclusion in tarot that I have always seen very clearly and continue to discover. And I think that in terms of tarot, there is always a responsibility to, as a teacher, continue to navigate and explore. Like, if this card doesn't include everybody, it doesn't include anybody. Like, that's my view on it. Other people, like, I always say this to my students, like, the Empress is one of those cards that has a very strong gender bias in many books. Like, it's about a woman, a mother, feminine. And I'm not saying that it can't be, but that's not all that it is. It's many more, because gender's a myth. It's like, we can't hinge a card on a myth. Right. So there's something so much bigger and more vast that can be inclusive of that or not. And I say to my students all the time, like, you are allowed to make and form any kind of bond that you want with this card for yourself. But if you're going to teach and you're going to read, you have a responsibility to widen that, to be open. And that's my job. I feel like that's literally like my job statement is to break a card down into the most simplified essence I can, that also isn't the one way to look at a card at its simplest essence. It's just the way it makes sense to me, right? So all that to say that tarot, like anything else, can be utilized for all kinds of things. It can be utilized for manipulation. It can be utilized for highest good, for absolute benevolence. The tarot itself is neutral. It's just what we bring to it. And yeah, so I think that's my answer. Yeah, I feel like maybe there's a follow-up question for me in there, but I think like that's my answer right now. Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. And I love that it's I love that it is this neutral thing, and what we bring to it is the thing that matters the most. It's, I mean, I like that. And I think I said this last time we spoke. I'm so moved and touched by anything, whether it's tarot or whether it's a tree we love, anything that allows us to explore and widen. Like that is the journey, is to widen,
Absolutely.
is to broaden, is to look, is to listen, is to break down, is to shed. That is the journey every day, right? And to your point about capitalism and the boxes and the finish lines, these are untruths. These are not based in reality.
They've never been.
Right?
Yeah.
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 I love that. So I heard about, because I'm on your newsletter, a rebrand coming. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, since I sent out that newsletter, and it was a fool's errand to do it, I was guided to do it. So again, I'm definitely learning, like, I'm always guided to just change things, and if people want to come along for the ride, that's fine. This rebrand is essentially exactly what it sounds like, that my website is getting redone and restructured, and there will most likely be like a web address change from my name to the name of my work, which is tarotforthewildsoul.com, which is quite big and doesn't maybe seem that big on the surface, but it is. And my course that I do every year, also called Tarot for the Wild Soul, is getting twinned, because I don't want to teach people about the foundations anymore in that course. So I'm creating currently, it's been a beast of a gestation period with this particular course. They're all a little different, but I'm creating an evergreen foundations course that will be a really pure, distilled version of my old course that will just live on my site permanently. So if anyone wants to take themselves through the journey, they can. And then Tarot for the Wild Soul course is going to become something different. It's already started to kind of weave its way in. It feels pretty exciting, but also really unsure about how it'll all play out in the long term. It's really just changing day to day. I was working with a web designer not 2 weeks ago who was wonderful, and I loved her, but like the vision for what I wanted changed and moved beyond. And so we left on totally positive terms, but I was just like, hey, I think this is it. And I also think I'm going to go in a different direction with somebody else. And it was completely fine. So I was originally supposed to get the new website up like in 2 days, and that's it's like not going to happen anymore. So it's just been, it's been really wild. My work has changed out from under me this year. So I'm attempting, sometimes more gracefully than other times, to allow what wants to happen for myself, for all these offerings, for the work. But it's really intense. So I'm kind of like building a new house for them. And I don't know what will happen in the new like lindsaymack.com. I'm not sure why like that I have some sense of why I'm being guided to change the website and also no sense about it. It seems like a bad business decision to me, actually. But like that's working intuitively is very strange because sometimes, and I've never been steered wrong, but sometimes it can look like not good to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know my yeses and I know my no's, and I've never ever been steered wrong if I hear that. So it's very scary. It's bringing up a lot, and it's also delightful and exhilarating. The new designer I'm working with is it's really gelling and it's really lovely. So it's going really beautifully, and also is just pulling up all the things, you know.
I mean, isn't that like the perfect analogy for living, right? Right? I mean, I spoke with Emily McDowell recently on the show, and she, it was interesting. She started her business as Emily McDowell, just her name, right? And then they changed it to Emily McDowell and Friends, and recently changed it to M and Friends. So like starting off as like, hey, this is me, Emily, just me. And then as she sort of added people to her team, things changed and shifted, and it's scary, but it's more honoring of where you're at.
Yeah.
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 I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the last thing I want to talk about, Lindsay, is the integration or the piece of healing and reflection that really requires critical thinking. And what I mean by that is, I think there is a lot and it rubs me the wrong way, frankly. There's a lot in the world of self-help and healing and Instagram and the way we show up, I feel maybe inauthentically, that lacks critical thinking.
Tell me about it.
And I like when I say critical thinking and healing and reflection, what comes to mind for you?
Well, what comes to mind for me is, first of all, critical thinking is a term that I utilize constantly in my work with my students, because I think, and forgive me if I'm tangenting here, but
this is the number one tangent podcast.
It's true, and I love it. There is so much historically in our bones and our blood, rooted in colonialism, rooted in witch burnings, rooted in various different kinds of persecution in religion, that have really trained us, many of us, to follow. We don't want to lose our place in the community, in the circle. We don't want to be tossed out for saying the wrong thing. A lot of us who are super sensitive have a lot of sense memory of being ostracized and potentially even hurt. I absolutely believe that some of us remember being killed for speaking up. Some people, that is still happening to them. And I do believe that the lack of the weakness of the critical thinking muscle, that is the ability to stop, to take something in that we're consuming or that we're reading about or that we're exploring, and really have a very wide open berth of consideration, the willingness to bring in different viewpoints, to look at it through different lenses, to kind of always be learning. I think it kind of goes against some really strong old patterns of protection that we've inherited from some of our ancestors. And I also think it has to do with desiring to know that there's a way, and there's something of brain in that. There's something of like, oh, this person like is saying this, they must know. Let me hitch my wagon to that.
Yeah.
So I my husband and I speak about this a lot because I feel like my ability to critically think is one of the most treasured parts about me. And it is something that I've always had the ability to do, period, as well as to bring that to the tarot. And my husband is a very effective critical thinker, and we've it doesn't mean we always get it right, by the way, but it does mean that we're willing to really think about it. And I think it's rooted in a lot of different stuff. I think some people just think like, oh, this person knows, so I can just follow them. I can just do it. And we don't, it ties back into something very deep and very old that is rooted, I think, among many other things, in the structure and the form that religion took. That's like, well, this person's the gatekeeper. They know, you don't. They're a gatekeeper for you. I mean, from the time I was a really little kid, I was raised Catholic. And I mean, I don't know why this was inside of me, but I was just like, this person doesn't, like, this is a person like me. Like, I don't, like, I've never been, I mean, I don't have that in, like, with my own teacher, who I treasure and adore. There's plenty of things my teacher says. She's a genius, but I'm just like, nope, like not for me. That doesn't track for me. I can't find that. But cool, and I think that complication, that spiralicness of like, because it does spin you out sometimes, to be like, well, if I don't align with them on this, then what about everything else they've said?
Sure.
And I think like there is sometimes real importance to being able to be like, okay, this person is now sharing a worldview that absolutely does not resonate with my values, whatever. But I do think like people are extremely uncomfortable thinking for themselves. That's just like what it is. And I think we're seeing the warping of that with QAnon right now, where people are saying like, well, I'm doing my research, I'm looking into this, but there's really, I mean, they're still following someone else telling them what to do, and falling into this cult or into this conspiracy that is not based in reality, So I think it's scary to think for oneself, believe it or not. I think for a lot of people that's really scary. And I think that it's easy to believe that you are, but there's still, I don't know. I mean, I think I'm always thinking about this because I teach people. And I mean, honestly, that's rooted in some of the reasons why I feel a desire to change my website, because I am not interested in leading anyone to anything. I'm interested in putting out a set of tarot teachings that you can take or leave. I, Lindsay, am not interested in anyone following me, because I'm a person, and I'm absolutely human. There's a lot I don't know, and I'm not the way. It's just it's a way. So I noticed that with my students. I noticed like what they put on me and immediately take as like, well, Lindsay said this. So I'm like, dude, Lindsay is like as flawed and as imperfect as you are. Like, what do you mean? And it's really quite shocking. So I feel like as a teacher and as a student of life, critical thinking is tantamount and paramount, but it's very hard to do, I think, for reasons that folks are not kind of all completely willing to unpack and explore, like the complexity of it. I think it's not you. I just think in general, like I feel like it is complex, whether people want it to be or not. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it, but that's kind of where I'm called to begin with it all,
Yeah. I mean, I love all of that. And I hadn't thought about it in the context of our history and religion. You're right. There is so much just idolatry in like leaders, right? And like people, oh, these are the people who quote unquote get it, and let's fall in line. That's such a human thing, because to your very important point, it's uncomfortable to do that inquiry,
That's right.
just the same as it is uncomfortable to feel our feelings, right? It's creating space for those thoughts, those feelings, the space for stillness, the space for allowing things to come to you sometimes. And this world is such a productivity focused, like win, like American capitalism, individualism, like all these things that feed into this like running away from those like still spaces to like think about a decision we made or think about a feeling we're having. And so that's why I think about like critical thinking. That's why I think about the importance of sitting with and being mindful of and curious about how we're feeling and what they mean, and to keep going and it's dangerous. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
And it scares me. And I yearn for people to just take moments, because we all can do it. It just takes practice. Like anything, just like empathy takes practice, it just takes practice.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. And I feel like it does. And I think it is important to speak to the rupture that can sometimes happen in folks when they start to navigate what it is to critically think in the face of also learning from others, which we do all the time, or absorbing things from others. And I feel like, again, not to take it constantly back to my work with my students, but I've noticed I will not be doing a community group going forward in my courses, because I do think for the size and scale of the people I teach, there's just a little bit too much codependence in there on me. So that's not a part of the flow of my work going forward. But I always I encouraged my students this fall to like create your own group and like discourse with each other, and I'll be there for you during like the live calls. But I remember like in my course this summer, observing my students would very often say, Lindsay teaches this card this way, but I don't agree. Here's what I think. And I fucking love that, because I think sometimes you have to push against the figure of authority to come. But there were a couple moments where I would have to remind someone, like, I don't have to be right for you to be wrong. And I don't have to be wrong for you to be right. We're all right. Unless there's really something that you're seeing that's like, whoa, you're really missing something here. This feels uninclusive, potentially even harmful, then 100%. But there's something so fascinating, because at the root of those comments from my students, there's something in there with some of them that's like, Lindsay didn't speak to like this experience that I have personally had. And I'm like, right, because that's your gold. Like, that's the gold. That's what I'm talking about. Like, it's in the lens of tarot, like it's just one way to see it. But like, ideally you would take it and go much further. But folks are so uncomfortable with that. And I do think that sometimes I know I struggle with it in myself. That's like, well, this person isn't speaking to something that makes sense for me. So my brain wants to come in and be like, they're cut off. That's it. Rather than being like, well, they are speaking to like many things that do deeply resonate with me and that are very helpful. So how do I navigate that?
Yeah.
You know, what does that look like? Do not want, now, having said that, I want to be very clear here. I'm not talking about people who are actively harmful, actively getting call-ins to evolve in some way, understand something, and ignoring it, blocking people. 100% divest, walk away, absolutely, from harm, from any kind of abusive situation, absolutely. But I think what you're speaking about and what I'm speaking about is like, how do we just as people navigate what it is to critically think and still and not shut the door on that, on the extreme sometimes discomfort and those feelings of rupture that's like, well, what do I think? What do they think? Why don't we think the same thing? Why don't I? And I think there's something very interesting right now happening where like there's not a lot of space to think. Like people want you to like immediately answer to something.
Sure.
It's like, I don't operate like that. You know, I need to like take time sometimes to let it sink in.
Yeah.
I'm rambling a bit, but I do think I think it's completely rooted in systemic, very old wounding, very old systems of control that we see in all different kinds of places. I do think it has a root system in that. I do.
It's a vulnerable place to say, I don't know, or to say, I deserve, or I value myself enough to create the space to explore on my terms, right? It takes vulnerability. And I
absolutely,
you know, I think that, I know I've been in a place where like I've not allowed myself for that because, you know, deep down, I believe I don't deserve that space, or I don't deserve joy or love or whatever. And sometimes it's those internal limiting beliefs that we're fighting against to even get to that vulnerable place. Because we're sort of operating from a fear, from a anxiety perspective. And yeah, I mean, it's the place I keep coming back to. I've been reading Pema Chodron lately. Have you read her?
Of course. The best. And I just like, I keep the lens that I'm looking at the world right now is like this Buddhist lens, and it's all about this space. It's all about the messy middle. It's all about even allowing like a perspective of like hope being something that takes you out of the present. Oh, I agree. Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Which is like,
yes.
You know, like was new to me. I was like, oh, that's an incredible perspective, you know? I don't know. I'm rambling now too.
No, you're not. Not to like diverge, but the most important Pema Chodron book I've read thus far is Fail, Fail Again, Fail Better. If you haven't read that one, listeners, I very rarely make like recommendations on this basis, but I think it's required reading for all humans. It's short. I read it in an hour or two. And it's really just about failure, what we deem as failure being the jumping off point for evolution, for life, for compassion, for learning what it is to navigate self-forgiveness and mistakes, and how like it's the almost the ultimate, that and the unknown is like really just the ultimate ground of potential for life. And I remember reading it last summer of 2019, and it blew my world open. It was really like one of the most important things I've ever read, because I beat myself up all the time about not getting it right, not, whatever, that doesn't even exist. But it relates very directly to exactly what you so beautifully said. Like, do I have the right to take time here Do I have the right to process,
Yeah.
And of course I do. Not only it's a birthright, but it's also essential for me to integrate what I want to change. And it's a profoundly uncomfortable space to occupy. Everything that we're talking about here with regard to critical thinking, with regard to being with ourselves, being willing to consider that we may have a lot more wisdom within us than we think we do. It's very uncomfortable to rely on that. So
I love that.
One day at a time,
Indeed. Well, Lindsay, how do you feel about talking about empathy heroes?
I feel great about it.
Good. So listeners, as we always kind of wrap up the show, we talk about our empathy heroes, people in our lives who are deeply empathetic, feely, sensitive, heart-leading heroes of ours. They could be people we know personally, characters from stories or Twin Peaks, for example. I'm going to go first. My empathy hero this week, we're recording this on January 17th, 2021. Tomorrow is, in the States, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And this morning I was reading, as I like to do every year, reading Letter from a Birmingham Jail.
I also revisit that every year.
It's stunning, and it's rereading part of it this morning, how prescient and how devastating it is. It was written in 1963. We're living in 2021, and what he is speaking to is still so relevant today, especially in terms of him calling out, white moderates, in terms of like the work, the active resistance and work that needs to be done in our hearts and in our communities. And he is, a tremendous soul and someone I look up to. And listeners, if you haven't read Letter from a Birmingham Jail, please do. It'll open your eyes, and I'll link it in the show notes for everyone to do that. So Martin Luther King Jr. is my empathy hero this week.
That's extraordinary. I want to basically say same. And 100% beautiful. I'm going to add to that. Who comes to my mind right now is Adrienne Marie Brown. I don't know if you know them, but
I do.
Adrienne, just extraordinary. And I've been doing a lot of reading of, I think all of Adrienne's books are extraordinary, but I've been reading this book called Beyond Survival, I believe it's called, which is a collection of essays from folks in the restorative justice movement. And Adrienne Marie Brown has a really exceptional piece in there, and also has a book that I just ordered a couple of days ago from AK Press called We Will Not Cancel Us. That is a larger, gentle, in Adrienne's own words, exploration of like, what happens with harm? Like how do we repair in a lasting way? How are we centering? How are we, like, what does this movement look like? What are we, and there's been a very profound place of empathy that I've found in Adrienne's writing, in their questions, that was also, I was thinking about Adrienne's writing when you were saying, like, how do we hold a space of empathy, but also be like very clear about our values, our beliefs, like with zero room and zero wobbliness in terms of centering the folks who deserve to be centered when it comes to harm and repair. And I think Adrienne Marie Brown for me is consistently kind of blows me open with their willingness to unpack and very gently explore these larger questions of forgiveness, of self-forgiveness, what repair looks like, and how there's no kind of final answers to those questions. And I think that, to me, I feel like a theme of what we've been talking about today is really like that there's no clean, like we're never done. Like there's no clean answer to these questions. Like we're always discovering and learning new things. And I feel like that willingness to be and flourish in that space is Adrienne Maree Brown is for sure my empathy hero of the week and really of life.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that sounds wonderful. I haven't read any of their books, and I intend to. And
I'll beautiful.
Yeah, and listeners, I'll make sure to include Adrienne Maree Brown's books in the show notes for this episode. Lindsay, you are a wonder. You are a delight. You are a magical fairy creature. And I'm so grateful for you. And I'm so glad that we got to do this again. Thank you for being a part of it.
Thank you so much for having me. This was such a joy.
You're very welcome. Where can the Feely humans out there connect with you? I know things might be shifting on the URL front.
I know. For right now, for today, it's lindsaymack.com. That might be different, but I'm sure you'll be forwarded to the new address if you go to lindsaymack.com. I'm not really on Instagram all that much, but it is at Wild Soul Healing, at least for today. That also might change. And my podcast is Tarot for the Wild Soul, and you can listen to that at any place where you listen to podcasts, and that will not be changing. That will still be continuing, and it will still have the same name. So one Wonderful. Solid point. Yeah.
Well, listeners, all of those links will be in the show notes for this episode. Lindsay, thanks again for being a part of this again, round 2. So wonderful.
Yes. Thank you, Noan.
And to you listeners, as I always say, I'm here, you're here. We're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring, pale blue dot. We have each other. It's you, me, empathy.